Which face do you find more attractive? If you picked face B on the right, you're not alone. Facial attractiveness is both measurable and mathematical. In this video, we'll analyze not one, not two, but 3 female faces and create personalized guides on how each can enhance their appearance, finishing with photo edits to show what's visually possible. On to face number 1. Welcome to Chadify, where the purpose is to help others. It is never meant to put anyone down. Our content, and this video in particular, serve as objective case studies in physical self-improvement. We will examine 4 main aspects of each face and assess attractiveness based on optimal mathematical criteria for each category. Each of these 3 faces come from a different ethnic and genetic background, so each must be analyzed with its own criteria. In cases of mixed ethnicity, these criteria often overlap in complex ways, a nuance that underscores the importance of getting expert analysis. For example, face number 1 shows strong ties to Western Europe, so our assessment will be based on the established beauty ideals of highly attractive women from this region. Western Europe typically contains a mixture of Celtic and Scandinavian influences. On the right here, we have 2 images of aggregated, highly attractive women from these regions. So face number 1 possesses phenotypic traits in accordance to her ethnic background, and the first one being her beautiful turquoise eyes. I think they really stand out. They work with her lighter complexion. She also has dark blonde hair with a nice beautiful gradient of likely natural highlights, very attractive. And additionally, she has a narrow nose shape. She doesn't really have a truly leptorine narrow nose because it's relatively short in its total distance, but from like an absolute factor, it is morphologically consistent with her ethnic background. So now on to her strongest facial features. Firstly, she has thick, luscious hair. I mean, it's a bit wild. It's a bit out of control, but a very attractive base for her hair. Secondly, she has balanced lip proportions with a 2/3 upper lip to 1 lower lip ratio. Additionally, she has an ideal jaw frontal angle of exactly 90 degrees. That's a perfect right angle. And finally, she has minimal upper eyelid exposure. Some women benefit from a bit more upper eyelid exposure. It's going to really be dependent on individual circumstance. So now on to her main weaknesses. First of all, she has a long lower third. Ideally, we want to see it at 34% at the most, and this is going to play a role in her later developments of her facial analysis. I'm going to give you a chance right now to guess how this connects into her dimorphism. Secondly, she has thin, light eyebrows and eyelashes. It's more the eyebrows than the eyelashes. She probably has some mascara on. This could be worked with. And finally, she has small eye size for her given ethnic background. See, the thing is that some ethnicities benefit from smaller eyes. Many women from East Asian backgrounds actually look more attractive when this percentage is slightly higher. It suits their given ethnicity. Europeans typically benefit more from a larger eye size in absolute, closer to 105% or 100%. And now, on to face number 1's dimorphism. Dimorphism refers to the balance of femininity to masculinity in a face. Humans are polymorphic, meaning we all display dimorphic traits that vary in their degree of masculinity to femininity. Let's determine whether face number 1 is prettier or more masculine. And how did that longer lower third tie into this? Well, if you guessed masculine, you are correct. With a long lower third, especially 38%, which is totally on the more masculine side of the spectrum, ideally women benefit from a shorter lower third because this increases their femininity, sometimes even below 32%. Secondly, she has short eye-eyebrow distance. It's not insanely short, but it's still on the shorter side of the spectrum, which is also a more masculine trait. Thirdly, she has a small nose, and this is a more feminizing trait. If you look at her bizygomatic width to total nose width here, 4.2 to 1. Anytime that this is above 3.75, it definitely plays a role in feminizing a face. Therefore, she has moderate masculine dimorphism. She might be slightly more towards the masculine side, Onto our final aspect of facial attractiveness, which we are analyzing symmetry. Here is our bilateral left side mirrored. And here are some key landmarks, and we're going to look at the distance of such landmarks from the left and the right. Honestly, not too much movement. You're seeing those white lines right here, here, and all here. And now let's look at the right. She's more attractive from the left side mirrored bilaterally. Honestly, face number one has moderate bilateral symmetry. There's no glaring issues here. This is totally okay. If you do not suffer from some sort of deformity, it's the least important factor for facial attractiveness. Face number one scores at about a 5.5 out of 10 for facial attractiveness, meaning she's close to that median zone. Most people score between an 4 to 6. As noted on our y-axis here, that would be the frequency of which the population possesses such rating. Whereas on the x-axis, we're just simply looking at the rating itself, meaning she actually is a little bit above average. The point of this is not to just give someone a number, it's actually because we need to calibrate her self-improvement journey to her starting point. We need to understand where her facial attractiveness resides in order to improve her facial attractiveness to her actual potential, because that's what Stacify and Chadify are about, bringing faces to their actual potential. So time to Stacify face number one. Let's take her up to her truly optimized facial attractiveness potential, of which she deserves and we know she can achieve. Boom. Beautiful. Subtle changes make all the difference. And a curly-haired variation. Unlike the very beginning of this video where there was an actual right answer on average, version A, version B, which face was more attractive, in this case it's going to come down a lot to subjectivity. There have been some studies that have suggested that men do prefer, on average, straighter hair for women, and that women on average prefer more waves and curls, meaning that the left face that we're seeing here is likely more of a female gaze version of her potential, whereas on the right, it's more of a male gaze version. From our perspective, both are equally attractive due to this. So let's take a look cross-section of stasification. Firstly, natural methods should always be approached directly and immediately. Skincare. She does have some minor folding of the skin, slight eye bags, which many women and many people actually can pull off decently well. Nonetheless, diet and sleep can help with this, including skincare as well. And fitness to kind of tighten up the jaw, get things a little bit leaner. I'm not saying a huge and drastic change here, but even a small increase in athleticism can take a face so incredibly far. Moving on, darker brows, rapid brow, or other active serums to kind of increase brow thickness. Some people even get eyebrow hair transplants. There's a lot of options here. Dyeing the brows or drawing them on slightly for women. They have this luxury of being able to do it this way. But even through natural methods, non-makeup oriented methods, there's just so many ways to darken your brows. And mascara for the eyelashes just to enhance the eye area. Why? When you have smaller eyes, you want to bring out some width to them. Now, tidying up the hair is key. She has great hair follicle density, thickness. It just looks like, if I move my cursor here, a little bit coarser than ideal. If we can tidy it up, make it a little more silky, I think it's going to look a lot more attractive. Under eye concealer, if the side effects of the natural methods do not resolve her slight eye bag situation, then using some under eye concealer can lighten up the area. Additionally, lip liner, because she has a larger chin and her lips actually look quite good already, but she has a longer lower third. It's a little bit masculinizing. And if we can build out the lip area further, it'll take away dominance from this more masculinizing trait. And finally, genioplasty. And I might get some flack for this one. These are all ideas, and most people don't need to go from 1 to 100% here. We don't need to go all the way to the full stasification. I'm just saying she does have a longer lower third. She has a larger chin, and in theory, having a slightly shorter chin would be a bit more attractive. It would look more feminizing. Now, you may be wondering, how attractive are you? It's one thing to see examples on your screen, but where do you personally stand? Whether you're male or female, we can absolutely help you. Welcome to our website, Chadify.me. By breaking down your facial structure across 99 and counting mathematical measured attributes, giving you a clear, objective picture of where you stand, honing in on things like hairstyle, eye color, jaw structure, mid-face ratio, and things you may not even know about just yet. We also provide dimorphic and phenotypic analysis so you can understand not just the what, but the deeper why behind your features. And we build personalized roadmaps for improvement, from natural approaches like specific makeup techniques to professional options designed to fit your goals. goals, from essential analysis all the way up to our signature ultimate chatification experience with photo edits and morphs to showcase what's visually possible and progress tracking. Plus, every package comes with a free 9-page portrait guide, helping you take flattering, high-quality photos for your analysis, as photos matter more than ever in today's digital world. On to face number 2, guys, and let's get into her ethnicity. I think she's very attractive naturally. Face number 2 has very Mediterranean features, with an Armenian or Middle Eastern admixture likely contributing to a subtle North African appearance. Some of those phenotypic traits are, first of all, light brown skin, which totally suits her incredibly well. Secondly, full lips with a defined cupid's bow, very common for both Armenian and Mediterranean ethnicities. And finally, a round nasal tip. This is not as common for the Mediterranean phenotype, but it's much more common for Armenian and Middle Eastern ethnicities. It actually suits her well. So on to her strongest facial features, the first of which being her smooth, clear skin. That just stands out as a clear health indicator. Secondly, she has excellent thirds of length. Sometimes women benefit from a shorter, lower third, but in her case, this is just near perfection of balance. Additionally, she has ideal eye spacing with an ES ratio of 0.46. Technically, this could be a little bit higher for women, but I think it's quite good. And she has 105% for eye spacing ratio. Unlike face number 1, face number 2 has larger eyes, and it just suits her well. And like I said before, she has young health indicators, neoteny, which is playing into her facial attractiveness in a way which is hard to measure directly with ratios. You can just see it. And finally, all of her phenotypic traits, as mentioned earlier, are increasing her facial attractiveness. So on to her main weaknesses. First of all, she does have slightly light eyebrows, especially for her given ethnic blend. Secondly, she has a slightly long philtrum of 1.95 chin length to 1 philtrum length. A lot of women benefit from having a chin philtrum ratio which is like 2 to 1, sometimes even slightly below that. But it's entirely dependent on ethnic background, meaning if you're Asian, if you're African, having a longer philtrum may actually result in you being more attractive. But because face number 2 is a blend of Mediterranean and Armenian or Middle Eastern influences, this ratio should actually be a bit higher. Perhaps 2.25 to 2.5 to 1 would look a little bit better, meaning her philtrum is slightly long. And she has slight narrowing of her lower third with a bigonial ratio of 83%. We just think that this is a little bit on the lower side for her. Take a look at this. Slight weaknesses, slight. Everything's a slight weakness. She doesn't have any glaring problems. They're just minor things that we're touching on here which could be enhanced going forward. This will have a role on her facial attractiveness rating. Now on to her dimorphism. Is she pretty or more masculine? So the first dimorphic trait that she has is a round jaw contour with soft facial features overall. I mean, this is just clearly pretty. Boom. This is one benefit of having a slightly longer philtrum and a shorter chin. It's more feminizing. It can still be a slight flaw and a feminizing trait. Keep in mind that this stuff is highly complicated. It's like matrices in linear algebra. There can be multiple answers derived from specific relationships between facial features. And thirdly, her brow ridge and nose bridge are soft in development. They don't come out very far. It's almost reminiscent of some East Asian ethnicities. Perhaps she has some admixture from further Asian groups. Why does this matter? Well, it increases femininity further. Therefore, as you probably would have guessed, she has low masculine dimorphism and high feminine dimorphism. So onto her final aspect of facial attractiveness, that being her bilateral symmetry. Here's her left side mirrored. Here's the key landmarks. Boom. Now you're going to see like a massive deviation here. This looks like a huge problem. Is she really unattractive? Are we totally wrong here? Not necessarily, okay? Let's go back to the left here and let's take a look at the, wow. Okay, so this is not right. This is insanely uncanny. What's going on here? Well, it's actually not what you think. Photo orientation can affect perceived symmetry. And in this case, the result isn't entirely accurate. She has very high symmetry, actually, though it looks entirely uncanny due to the slight angle of her front view photo. Take a look at this. You can actually see here, her face is tilted to the left slightly. She's not exactly front on, and this will affect the accuracy of analysis. And that's why every single order that you place at Chadify comes with a free 9-page portrait guide to take optimal photos for analysis. Ultimately, photos are so important, whether it's for facial analysis or just looking your best in a photo shoot or to your friends on Instagram Instagram. Like, this is not a terrible photo, it's just slightly tilted. And that's why it looks like her bilateral symmetry previously is not good. But in reality, it's actually higher than face number 1's. So in terms of facial attractiveness, face number 2 scores at a 6.5 out of 10. Fair amount higher than face number 1. She's definitely a little bit more attractive. So the most important aspect of this is the potential of face number 2, because we still believe she has potential remaining for her facial attractiveness. She has a very simple look right now that can be honed in and improved. So as a result, time to Stacify face number 2. Let's take her up to her truly optimized facial attractiveness. And I did a curlier haired variant as well because her ethnicity typically possesses curlier hair texture. Nonetheless, incredibly attractive. So much potential. So let's take a look now. We're going to zoom in and there's her cross section. So I want you guys to comment right now what looks maxing tactics are being used for face number 2. Well, first of all, she had her hair back, likely simply to have it out of her face. She might not wear it like that all the time, but increasing the volume and having her hair out automatically makes her more attractive, more feminine. Secondly, eyeshadow. We didn't use this for many of our previous faces. This is because they come from different ethnic backgrounds, and for certain ethnic backgrounds, eyeshadow genuinely decreases facial attractiveness. But in this case, being that she's Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, maybe Armenian, maybe North African, this general vicinity benefits from deeper set eyes, meaning eyeshadow is a perfect candidate. Darkening her eyebrows is also critical, and longer lashes to simply make the eye look even bigger, very feminine round eyes. Now moving down to the lip region, lip liner also serves her well. Her lips are already quite good, but she has a slightly long philtrum, and this is one way to combat it with lip liner. You don't always need lip injections to have an attractive lip area. She already has well-formed lips, but a slightly long philtrum, and it's just when you draw it on essentially, and then add some lip gloss to blend it all together. Now some contouring for her nose. I think her phenotypic nose structure is fine to a degree, but contouring can add a bit more angularity to it, which might look good being that she's slightly Middle Eastern. And finally, eyeliner, mainly confined to the waterline region. It almost appears that she has some scleral show under her iris. This would counteract that very nicely. So if we look at her looks maxing tactics here, they are literally all confined to styling and aesthetic changes. She's very attractive, but she's a little bit on the plainer side, meaning that styling is enough to take her up to a fully optimized appearance, and definitely indicates that she is indeed above average in attractiveness. On to face number 3, guys. In terms of ethnicity, face number 3 appears to be Siberian in her ethnic background. Now, how can I tell the difference between Siberian and the southern East Asian areas, like maybe the Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos? How can I tell the difference? It comes down to some very specific phenotypic markers, all of which we're going to discuss right now. The first one being her coppery tan skin. It's not as brown, it's got a bit more of a redder tint. That's our first hint here. Secondly, pronounced epicanthic folding. More northern East Asian groups have more of this, as it's an adaptation to colder climates. It's not to say that southern Asian individuals do not have it to the same level. In certain cases, they definitely do, but that's a case-by-case basis. It's not in aggregate. And in aggregate, Siberians have very pronounced epicanthic folding. Thirdly, she has a highly developed jaw with extreme masseter muscle development. Now, this could be partly due to being slightly above the ideal body fat percentage for her given frame currently, but really it is also a phenotypic marker which indicates potential Siberian influences. So onto her strongest facial features. The first one being positive canthal tilt, with 11 degrees in her left eye and 10 degrees in her right eye, with a downward pointing medial canthus. That's this portion right here of the eye. When that points down, it automatically increases attractiveness, and not everyone has it. Asian individuals benefit so tremendously from this facial attribute. Additionally, she has full lips, and she has various other features which have small impacts. She has some good features. They all compound on top of these main ones we mentioned here, but they don't have so much utility to our analysis because they're not insanely strong. They're just slightly above average, meaning we got to get on to her main weaknesses. First of all, she does have slightly high facial fat. This might sound like it's contradictory to our previous statement about her developed master muscles suiting her Siberian background, but we're likely forgetting the main aspect here, which is the fact that there's bounds to everything. Even if you have a phenotypic trait, you can sometimes reside outside of the ideal range for it, and body fat can be an aspect of it. Like, she would benefit from a slightly leaner, narrower face to a degree. Secondly, this leads in directly feeding her flat jaw frontal angle of 106 degrees. I'm not saying she needs to get to an extremely low body fat percentage. I'm not saying that she needs to get to 90 degrees for a jaw frontal angle. I'm just saying that she can work on it slightly, and it will definitely improve her facial harmony going forward. Thirdly, she does have thin, light eyebrows. And although the Siberian ethnicity areas, like, they can benefit from a slightly thinner eyebrow appearance, this is too light overall and should be enhanced slightly. Fourthly, she has small eye size, though there is some leeway due to her phenotype suiting much smaller eyes, which I indicated earlier when we were talking about our previous faces. Many East Asian ethnicities benefit from smaller eyes, but 154% is extremely small. Ideally, this would be like 130%. And there's many ways to improve this going forward. And on to face number 3's dimorphism. So here are some key dimorphic traits which influenced her perceived dimorphism. First of all, full lips, a prettier metric. Secondly, thin eyebrows. Technically, they are more feminizing than masculinizing, though thinner eyebrows are still somewhat of a flaw for most ethnicities. And finally, her highly developed masseter muscles and jaw. This is obviously a more masculinizing trait, even if it coincides with her given ethnicity, meaning that overall, she does have low to moderate masculine dimorphism. She's more feminine than masculine, but it's still getting pulled in the masculine zone slightly. And onto the final main aspect of her facial analysis being her symmetry. So let's take a look at her asymmetric traits. There's one that I noticed straight off the bat, and it's a small nostril asymmetry. The left nostril is a little bit less round than the one on the right. It's such a simple thing, it doesn't really matter that much, but it is something that we noticed, and it was worth reflecting on. So let's get into the left side mirrored here. I think it's pretty attractive. Key landmarks, and let's take a look at now the right versus the left. So there's actually some decent deviation in the actual width of her face. It's less about symmetry. Like, she actually has very good symmetry between features specifically. The width of the left side of her face seems to be a bit more narrow than that of the right. Let's take a look and try to confirm this. It's inherently obvious. Look at the right side mirrored. Very wide, definitely less attractive, and more dimorphically masculine. Again, the same situation. So unfortunately, she is moderate bilateral symmetry. It's average. So it's a mixture of unfortunate and fortunate events for face number 3 in terms of her bilateral symmetry. Her features themselves, except for the nostrils, are actually very symmetrical. Her lips, her eyes, her eyebrows. But in terms of the face width, the absolute factor of that, it's very asymmetric, believe it or not. It kind of counteracts her very symmetric features. Not the end of the world. So in terms of facial attractiveness, face number 3 scores a little bit lower than our previous two faces at about a 4.5 out of 10. She is definitely very close to being right smack dab in the middle at an average 5. But unfortunately, there are a few things holding her back currently from that rating. Maybe you're noticing as well in this video that most of our faces are relatively close in their facial attractiveness. I mean, the range between 4.5 to 6.5 is 2 points. I mean, sure, like, you can see the differences, and they're all different ethnicities, so if you prefer East Asian faces, you're most definitely going to think face 3 is much higher than face number 1, and maybe even face number 2. There is some subjectivity on a contextual, case-by-case basis versus an aggregated approach that we take at Chadify and Stacify. Nonetheless, the potential for face number 3 is actually extraordinarily high because she has a lot of attractive features despite currently scoring ever so slightly below average. And this obviously is the point of facial analysis, not to put people down, but to bring them up. So time to Stacify face number 3. Let's take her up to her fully optimized facial appearance. Wow. I mean, this is a very beautiful face. Her eye area, being small, was almost entirely solved by these beautiful eyelashes. There could be a subtle wing in there, but it's basically covered by the fact that her eyelashes are so long. It looks so good. I grew out her hair, I added earrings. Why? they're feminizing, and it just makes her so much more attractive. Her whole entire eye area, we're adding a mixture of eyelashes and extreme eyeliner to bring out her eye area. And notice how we're not really bringing it in that much. We're not bringing the medial canthus that far in. We could be bringing it in further, but we want to widen out her eyes. We want to add some width. And then we darkened her eyebrows. Some very minimal eyeshadow was applied above the eye, near the lateral canthus of the eye, but nothing extreme. Additionally, her skin was touched up quite a bit, whether this is foundation or just having a better skincare procedure, which we should make a video on at some point. It's likely a combination, and mostly the latter. Better skin can be achieved through literally diet, fitness, and a great skincare routine, meaning that a lot of natural methods here will improve her skin. We also did modify her nostril appearance, which could be possible through a very minor rhinoplasty. In her case, I feel like it's not even worth it. Still worth addressing. It could be implemented. And then finally, I think the most important thing, which circles back to natural, is likely losing a bit of body fat. Body fat does play a role in the face. Your masseter and your gonian kind of regions can appear wider when you have higher body fat or just are heavier. And although this is a phenotypic trait and it is natural for her to have a bit more width there because of her ethnicity, there's no doubt that it could feminize and come in a bit more through some of these tactics. And additionally, longer hair will make your masseter muscles look more narrow. That darkness, that contrast, it will bring it in. It will look a little bit more narrow. There are some limitations here. Every one of these limitations are solved through our analysis offered at Chadify.me. So if you want to be Stacified or Chadified, this is a very customizable and a truly client-based process. Face number 1, face number 2, face number 3. Well, where are all these other faces coming from? The truth is, at Chadify, or if you want to call it Stacify, we have an ongoing series for facial analysis. So let's take a look at how these ratings, how this analysis is breaking down. This is a very important part of the video. Do not skip it. So the mean rating received is a 5.19 out of 10. So pretty much dead set in the center at a 5 thus far. 8 faces is not enough to derive a totally meaningful relationship, but a preliminary nonetheless. With a standard deviation of 1.27, meaning that roughly 68% of faces score between this zone, or anywhere from a 4 to a 6. If you score a 4, 5, or 6, do not be ashamed, do not be embarrassed, and do not feel bad. This is normal. If you score beyond this zone or below it, you're in the second standard deviation, which covers literally 99% of faces. You know, most people aren't supermodels and most people are not incredibly unattractive, and everyone can improve so incredibly much. Obviously, it varies. Everybody has a different potential, but the idea here is that we can move this mean higher for this channel, for the given individuals who are passionate about facial attractiveness and being their best self. If you want to watch our previous videos of this series, we're going to have one on the top left and one of them on the top right, so you can click on it right now. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you guys next time.